Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Allie's Book Nook. Today I'm going to be sharing with you what books I've been reading for the past month or so, as well as I thought it would be fun to start sharing with you in my videos books that I have acquired since we spoke last. So I love reading. I'm a bit of a book hoarder and I take in more than I can read. So thought I'd share those with you, and then we'll get into the 6 books that I read since we last spoke. So what I've acquired in the past month or so, the first one I got from a little free library, and this is, it looks like an old horror book from the early 80s called Incarnate by Ramsey Campbell. Don't know anything about that book. Also at the same little free library, the same hall, Girl Last Seen by Nina Lauren. And I think that's like a thriller, murder mystery type book. From Goodwill, picked up a book called The Wife Before, which I believe is a thriller by Sharonda Williams. And the thing that's really cool about this copy, I think it was an ARC. You can see there's no barcode on the back, and it says Advanced Uncensored Edition, Not for Sale. So July 2022 fiction. So that's pretty cool. Also from Goodwill, I thrifted a copy of The It Girl by Ruth Ware. I've read a couple of her books before. Okay. There's my dog. Anyway, so looking forward to that one at some point. So I also have a handful of brand new books here, and it's pretty rare that I get brand new books, but it just so happens this month that I acquired several. So the first one we have here is called Come With Me by Ronald Malfi, or Malfi. I'm not quite sure how you say that. This author was actually recommended to me by someone on this channel, one of my viewers, so thank you so much for recommending him. I did some research, and all of his books sound really good. He's a horror novelist. Several of them have the Bram Stoker Award nominee. And this one is a couple years old, and I picked this up at Barnes & Noble. So I am about halfway through this, and I'm loving it. So I'll be talking about this book in my next book review video. Anyway, thank you for recommending him, because I am excited to read more books in his catalog. So I got that at Barnes & Noble, and then they also have a table at Barnes & Noble, you know, the buy one get one half off. And I got a couple new books from there. The first one is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. I haven't read any of her books, but I know she has a new one out. I think it's the same author, The Perfect Divorce. She also wrote The Perfect Marriage. This one came out about a year ago. I think it was pretty popular, so I've added this to my audiobook hold list with Libby. But I may end up reading it before. It's a several month wait. Yep, that's the same author. My pile of books is going to fall over here. And then another new book I got at Barnes & Noble is The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. I've kind of seen this book in passing. I think it's fairly popular right now, but I don't know much about it other than I think it's somewhat based on a true story. And it was in the thriller section, but it's about a reformatory back in the day. I don't know. It sounds really cool. It's about 500 pages, I think. 570. So a bit of a chunk, but I'm looking forward to reading that probably in the near future here. And then 2 more books I acquired a lot this month. And these ones are brand new too, which, like I said, is pretty rare for me. But the Easter Bunny brought me these. So the first one is The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. I've read one of her other books before called Reckless Girls, and I really liked it. So looking forward to this. That's a thriller. And then Stephen King Fairy Tale. So this is about a kid and his dog that go into an alternate reality, which is like a fairy tale world, I guess. And this is how many pages is this? About 600 pages, so about average probably for a Stephen King book. Not even, I mean, he has bigger, but that one I'm looking forward to also. So yeah, like I said, the one I am currently reading is Come With Me. Other than that, I haven't read any of these other ones. So let me know if any of those stand out as books that I should read sooner than later. Like I said, I'm thinking The Reformery. If anyone here has read that, let me know your thoughts on it. But I have a nice little pile here to add to my TBR pile. Now we're going to talk about what I've read since we met last. So I have 6 books here, but basically 5.5, because one of them was horrible and I did not finish it. And then I have some 5-star reads in here and kind of, pretty good range. So the first book I have to talk about is the one that I did not finish. It's been a really long time since I DNF'd a book. I don't even remember years, but this was a DNF for me. Do not finish, did not finish, whatever. And that is The Gathering by Anne Enright. So this was for my book club. Sadly, I think this is our last book that we're reading because we usually break for the summer. And the gal that does it through the library. She's retiring. So sadly, I think this is our last book and I'm not going to be able to be there for the discussion. But this, I just couldn't. I couldn't with this. So I read the paper, also listened to some of the audio. It's 261 pages. Like I said, I got halfway through from 3:30 to 4:03. So my first thoughts, it sounded like it could be interesting. It's like an Irish family drama. So this gal, her brother passes away, so she goes back to her where her family is in Ireland, and it's like a story about that. But I did not like it at all. So my final impressions, it was horrible. It was off-putting. It was the first book to DNF in a very long time. I gave it 1 star on everything. Character, plot, writing, overall. I said I would not recommend it. It's not interesting or entertaining. It's off-putting. There's no redeeming qualities in this book other than it has short chapters. And it was a waste of time. So that was pretty brutal. I think I was kind of fired up when I wrote this. And by the way, a lot of these books I don't have notes on, but some of them I do here. So my notes on this was that the narrator was not personable. I just didn't care about her or her story. I just did not connect with her. The thing that was really cringy in this book is she was obsessed with male genitalia and male body hair. And it was like cringy and gross, and everything I read in the reviews, like nothing mentioned that. This has really good reviews, or pretty good reviews on Goodreads and Fable, and nobody brings that up, but it's like she brings it up constantly in the book, and it's like, why? It just, I mean, it was a boring storyline, but then you add in all that cringe, and it was just, no, not worth my time. It was the worst book I've read or attempted to read in a long time. So Goodreads 3.14 and Fable 3.0 was published in 2007, and it was boring. Don't waste your time on this book. I mean, if you're into that kind of stuff she was talking about, which it wasn't like an erotica kind of book or smutty or anything like that. It wasn't meant to be. I don't know what was going on. But there's other books out there that could fill that gap for you. That this is not it. Just no redeeming qualities other than the chapters were short. So unfortunately, at some point, I always try to power through a book. Always. And if I can power through it, I usually give it at least 2 stars. But this one, I guess I can't say always, because I just thought life's too short to torture myself with this book. So I moved on. And the book I moved on to was definitely worth it. This is a 5-star read. This is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. And this is the newest book in the Hunger Games universe. So this is the 5th Hunger Games book. We have the 3 Hunger Games. Then we have the prequel, not Sunrise on the Reaping. What was the prequel? Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And then this is another prequel that takes place kind of between Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and the first Hunger Games. So you do have to be up to date on Hunger Games books to read this, but Really good. Actually pre-ordered it, got it early or when it was first released, but I was out of town, so finally got to it. I just read the hard copy is all. From 4/3 to 4/11, and it was 382 pages. I would call this like a dystopian fiction type book. Hunger Games are young adult, so I guess this is probably young adult as well. So, if you guys know the Hunger Games, Haymitch, he is Katniss's mentor because he had won the Hunger Games like years before. I think this is the first quarter quell that he was in. So this is his story of him being in the Hunger Games. So of course we know that he won it in the end, but we don't know his whole story, the whole story of how everything came to happen in that Hunger Games and why he is the way he is by the time it gets to Katniss's story. So I really don't want to give much away. I actually didn't take any notes in here. I didn't even write my starred reviews, but I would give this 5 stars. Kind of got out, I'm kind of just in a slump with doing my book journal right now, and I'm not going to force myself to do it. If it's not enjoyable to me, I'm not going to do it. I can still talk about them here with you guys, which I do enjoy. But yes, I would highly recommend this. They are making a movie. It's supposed to be out next year. But again, you kind of want to be familiar with Hunger Games before you jump into this. And I think she could do a lot of different stories within the Hunger Games universe, and I really want to see those. I'd love to see how everything went down, you know, where the Capitol was created and all that, like pre-Hunger Games. I'd love to see that someday, but anyway, this was really good. It was sad. It was a bit of a, well, not a tearjerker for me. I know someone that was bawling when they were listening to it, but it takes a lot for me to cry in a book, a lot. The Women was most recent book that I remember shedding a couple tears for, but this one came close. It will pull at your heartstrings, especially if you're a Hunger Games fan. Okay, so the next book I read, this was also a tearjerker, but dang, this was such a good book. I loved it so much. This was over 5 stars, 5+++. Kristin Hannah has done it again. This is my 3rd book I've read of hers, and they've all been immaculate. This is The Nightingale, which is probably her most famous novel. And this version was released as a 10th anniversary edition. So it was re-released as a 10th anniversary edition. So we have this jacket on it. We have the sprayed edges, which I absolutely love with the Nightingale. And then we have a silk ribbon bookmark in here, so really cool. And then have these pages on the inside, the Eiffel Tower and Nightingale. So really a beautiful physical book and also just a beautiful story. I also listened to the ebook through Libby, and this took me from 4/7 to 4/14, so a week, 440 pages. And it's about World War II and women during World War II. There's 2 sisters in France, and this talks about their stories. One of them is a mother. She has a small daughter, and the other one is younger. I think she's like 19, 20, but she becomes part of the resistance against the Nazis. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story. Obviously, there are some really dark, heavy things going on with Germany invading France and how their lives are affected, and you know, there's people that they know that pass away because of those atrocities. But I don't want to really give it away too much, but if you're looking for a historical fiction book that will really pull at your heartstrings, this is it. And I think I said in my last video that I was kind of getting sick of like World War II era books, but I mean, this one, no, I was not sick of it. I love this. This is my favorite World War II book I've ever read. Well, Book Thief was really good too, but just everything she touches is gold. So I definitely want to, this is my 3rd book of hers this year. I want to read more in Kristin Hannah's catalog. I think I've read her like 3 most famous, but she's been writing for like 20 years. So I think she used to be a lawyer before that. Anyway, this was just a beautiful, pull at your heartstrings, thought-provoking, wonderful story that is going to stick with you for a long time. So highly recommend it. And yeah, I love the beautiful 10th anniversary edition. Okay. The next book I read, this was actually probably a 5-star too. So I had a 1-star, and I think everything else I read, I would give 5 stars. So made up for it. This is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. And this is a sci-fi thriller. I read it from 414 to 419. Paper and audio, 359 pages. I gave this a 4.75 on Fable, just because after reading Nightingale, it's really hard to beat anything Kristen Hanna has written. So I had a little bit of a book hangover after that. This is a totally different genre, but I think, it was just, you can't top that. So 4.75, but it was really well written. Really cool storyline. I guess it's a series on Apple TV. I don't have that, but basically there's this guy that is a successful college professor in like physics, that kind of stuff. And I'm looking on the back to see if it says what his profession is exactly. I don't know, but yeah, like a physics professor, quantum physics. And one day he gets kidnapped by someone, and he basically wakes up and he's in an alternate reality where he doesn't have a family anymore. He doesn't have a wife and kids anymore, but he's like a really successful scientist. Basically the road that he would have took. He had that option in life to not start a family and to go on to be a successful scientist. He didn't do that, but he goes into a reality where he did. And now he has to try to get back to his reality. But in the meantime, there's all these other alternate universes where maybe some people from his life as he knew it still exist, but in different settings, and so he might open a door and there's a different universe where maybe his wife is in there somewhere, but it's not the wife that he knows, or his kids out there somewhere. So I don't want to get too much into it, but it's really cool. It was really fun. Did make you have to think a little bit more, but it's written so anyone can follow it. It doesn't really get too scientific-y. That's not even a word. It doesn't get too detailed in like the science behind it all and stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. It was really good. It says the most helter-skelter race to the finish line thriller you'll read all year with a clever, mind-boggling final twist. Yeah. So I do want to read more of Blake Crouch's works too. This is the first one I've read of his, but he has a series out there, a 3-book series that I've heard good things about. Okay. So I have 2 more books and they're part of a series, and I have read them before, but I went back and I'm rereading these with my oldest daughter. So the first book in the series is I'm not going to say this right. I never say it right. I always want to say Miss Peregrine, but Miss Peregrine's, I'm just going to say that, Home for Peculiar Children, which sounds so ignorant, but it's a bird. It's a type of falcon, I believe. And basically what happens in this book is there's this kid named Jacob, and his grandfather dies, and so him and his dad go to this island where his grandpa used to live in the 40s and World War II era. He lived at like a home for children. So they go there. Jacob goes through this like time loop thing into this other dimension where now he's back in the 40s at this this home. And all of the children in there are peculiar. So they all have these special abilities, talents, that type of thing. And they're fighting an evil force. So the first book really kind of introduces you to the characters. And the cool thing about these books in this series is they're all, they have a lot of pictures in it that really help tell the story. And all the pictures are actual old vintage photographs. So if you listen to the audio, I would recommend trying to go out and find the pictures. you know, when I would listen, the parts I would listen to, I would go back and look at the pictures. I think this is my third time reading this. I first read it when it came out 2014, I think, about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And then I read it at least one more time, and now I'm reading it again for the third time. But it's been a long time, and I have a bad memory, so I forgot a lot of the little details. But there's now 6 books in the series, and I plan on going through all of them at this point. And then there's 2 companion books. In the past, I read the first 3, and I felt like the third one ended really abruptly, but that's probably because it wasn't the ending. There's 3 more books in the series. So this was really good. So at the end of this one, it ends on a cliffhanger. You know, it has to be continued into another book. So we have the second book here called Hollow City. And this is, yeah, the second one. This is hardcover. Again, we have the fun pictures. So out of the 3, let me see here. How long did this take me to read? Ebook and audio. I read maybe 20 pages of the paper, but mostly I did this on audio, as well as a little bit of ebook, from 419 to 427, 399 pages. So, I own the first 3 copies in one of the companion books, but Libby has all of them in ebook and audiobook through my local library. So I plan on going through and reading all of them, unless they just get, you know, I'm not going to waste my time just like I didn't with The Gathering if they get really bad. But it's a really fun story. So this one, they leave the island and they go into London during World War II. And so you're more kind of in the thick of it. There is a scene before they get to London that I remember being my favorite scene out of the 3 books. Really, really fun. I don't want to give it away, but it was just a really fun scene. But, so in the meantime, you know, they're on this quest to fight evil. I don't want to really get into it. So this says September 3rd, 1940. 10 peculiar children flee an army of deadly monsters, and only one person can help them, but she's trapped in the body of a bird. That might have been a little bit of a spoiler alert, because that's assuming, I think, that you've read the first book. But you really do need to read the first book. You need to read them in order. So I just finished this one yesterday, and I plan on starting on the third one, which is called Library of Souls. And then there's Map of Days. There's a 4th one. Then there's 2 more. Plus there's 2 companion series. One of them I own called Tales of the Peculiar. And it's a bunch of short stories based on a book that is talked about in this book. So now that I've read this one, I'm also going to go back and read those short stories. I think I've only read a couple of them out of there, and that was several years ago. So I know technically this is like a young adult genre, this series, but it's really good. Like I said, my daughter's reading them with me, and she's not a big reader. This is the first time that she's read a book in a series where she's wanted to read the second one. So that's really exciting. And she got through the first one pretty fast. She's struggling on this second one. I think she's 50 pages in is all. So will she go through the whole series with me? Probably not, but that's okay. But like last summer we tried to read, we were going to read City of Ember. I read all 4 of them. She just read the first one. So it's cool that she's actually wanting to read the second one here. Like I said, I don't know how far she'll get, but I plan on reading them all. And since they're in Libby through audiobook, there doesn't appear to be any wait on any of them through my library. I think what I'm going to do for the next little while I'm waiting for my other holds to come up, is I'm just going to listen to those, read them a little bit here and there, but kind of in tandem with reading physical books that I don't have access to in audio. So like that Come With Me, Ronald Malfi. I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong. My library doesn't have any of his books on audio, but I know I want to read more of his. So stuff like that, like reading his books, the physical copy, while I'm listening to the Peculiar series. And I think that'll help me to get through those. Yeah. So we'll see. I think 6 books is a big commitment. What happened last time is I read the first 3. Like I said, the ending felt rushed in the 3rd one because I thought it was the end of the series. And then I purchased the 4th one, but instead of reading that, I decided to go down the Outlander rabbit hole by Diana Gabaldon, I think is who wrote that. And that ended up putting me in a reading slump, unfortunately. I know a lot of people love Outlander. It was really good for me in the beginning. I have several. I think there's 9 books. There's going to be 10, and I have the first probably 6. But I got about halfway through the series, and I DNF'd that book, and I was in a reading slump for a really long time, like a year or 2 or more. So if these books get to be dragging out, I'm not going to let that happen to me. I'm not going to force myself to power through them, but I'm excited to have access to all 6 of the books in the series and the companion novellas. So that is what I've been reading. I think my favorite book my least favorite was The Gathering. This was horrible. I already said that. What is my favorite book? Well, okay. Close second was probably Sunrise on the Reaping. Well, 3rd place was Dark Matter. 2nd place, Sunrise on the Reaping. And 1st place was The Nightingale, just because the writing in here is immaculate. So yeah, that is what I've been reading. Let me know what you guys are reading. If you have read any of these books that we talked about, what your thoughts are. Out of the ones I just showed you, of course I have much more in my TBR pile, but if any of those sound like something that I need to jump on, let me know. Or actually also in particular, if you guys know anything about this book, if that's something that I should dive into right away or not. In the next month, I have a few holds I anticipate coming available on my Libby wait list. A Taylor Adams book, which I'm really excited about, and some other ones. So watch for that in my next video. I'm going to try to start doing these more in calendar month wise. So right now we have a few more days left in April. You'll probably see me beginning of May talking about what I've been reading in April. Now that it's not, I was basing it more on my book club schedule, but that's not going to be relevant anymore. So kind of rambling, but thank you guys so much for joining me. Love to hear your thoughts and continue the conversation. Also, if you do like home fragrance, check out my sister channel, Allie's Amazing Scents, where I talk about Scentsy and all things home fragrance. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll catch you next time. Bye, guys.